Hey, what's up, everybody? This is your boy Kenny, and this is the Assassination of Gianni Versace, Season 2, Episode 7, and the name of this episode is Ascent. So we had Descent last week, and now this week is Ascent. And I would have to say this is a really good, because we're seeing, on Versace's side as well as Andrew's side, they both are coming up in different ways. Well, mainly on Versace's side, I'm talking about Donatella. So let's get this started. So it opens up. It's 1992, Milan, Italy. They're at the Versace's fashion house. Donatella, is talking about the idea of the dress, that a dress is a woman, that a dress is a weapon for a woman to get what she wants. So, if anything, the whole concept is designing the perfect dress. The thing is, she's not a good sketch artist, so what she ends up doing, instead of handing in her sketch, she hands all the other sketch from all the other artists that are there, and she presents it to Gianni, and Gianni flips the hell out. And he's like, what good are you? I want your ideas. I want who you are, and yet you bring me what everybody else doing. Like, what good are you? And she's saying that, like, and she's like, I don't understand. What do you want from me? And he tells her, I want everything. And she's saying, I'm giving all I can give. And he says it's not enough. And she just kind of flips out and just leaves. And he's like, fine, go assist. Go get somebody coffee, for crying out loud, since that's all you good for. And Antonio actually stood up for Donatella, and he said that, look, you were kind of out of line. You need to apologize to her. He says, look, I don't have time to give pity to anybody. And then Antonio's like, yeah, and you don't have time to be cruel either. So we see later on, they actually, Donatella and Gianni, reconvene, and he apologizes to her, and she just like, look, I can't sketch. And he says, like, look, I'm not a good sketch artist either. It sucks. But what I really want is your growth. I want to see you grow as a person. He says, and he comes up with the idea that we're going to design a dress together. And I want to design this dress as if it's the last dress I'm ever going to make. And she's like, don't say things like that. And he lets her know, soon it will be just you. It's like he had some premonition that he wasn't going to live long. And he was saying that, look, I want you to make Versace yours. I want this to continue after I'm gone. You are my legacy. And it just so happens that's exactly what Donatella is doing right now today, is carrying out his legacy. And that was interesting because we're seeing her trying to find her place in Versace's fashion in San Diego. Like, within the same time, we're seeing Andrew Cunanan, working at a drugstore. It seems like Norman really did his homework. If y'all watched last week's episode when Norman read Andrew his rights, he called him out that, yeah, his ass was working in a drugstore, making like $6 an hour. And you can just look at Andrew. He's completely miserable. And we actually see that he's at the register reading Vogue. This guy comes up to buy some toothpaste. He's like, oh, toothpaste. I'm a student at, at UCSD. And, just trying to have small talk with the guy. The guy just bought a toothpaste and got up out of there. And, his boss was like, he had Vogue, and he just took it from him and said, not on my time. So then we see that, the boss gives Andrew his check. He looks very displeased with it. He's like, look, does that bother you? I mean, look, I can't pay you for the time that you're not here, and you're always late all the time. And he's saying that, look, I don't mind the check, but I kind of mind it from my mom. My mother really needs the help. And he was saying, so of course he asked about his father. He says, well, the father, he left for the Philippines and now he's gone. Yeah. the father's in the Philippines and he's living like a squatter. He doesn't have any money. Didn't tell all that. But then he pretty much asked him, like, look, what is your plan? You know, what is it that you want to do with your life? I mean, instead of you being all up in the magazines, you know, you really need a plan. You really need to work something. And the guy was like, look, I didn't get all of this by being idle. And we just kind of see right there, Andrew has this serious distaste for hard work. It's just like, even though he's working, he hates it, he most of the time is living in a fantasy while he's on the clock. And of course his boss clocks this. So we just see right then and there, Andrew, from that point, just really didn't want to work, but he wanted the lifestyle. So we get a quick scene between him and his mother, Marianne. You know, she buys, you know, this tub of generic ice cream because it was cheaper. Did you know that this crazy son of a bitch threw the shit down and was like, he goes off and he's saying that no, it's not the best, you know, and she's pretty much, you know, is kind of like, look, and he was just saying that, look, I want the best, you know, I'm not going to settle for anything less. So then he gives her extra money, says, next time, get Haagen-Dazs. I was like, oh, this motherfucker is a trip. Like, seriously, you are too good to eat generic ice cream when y'all literally are living hand to mouth, check by check? Really? Like, that damn Andrew's a mess. Then we see that he goes out, you know, to hang out with Jeff. You know, Jeff is at this time is still in the army. You know, they're hitting up some clubs and everything, and you know, then we see that Andrew gets around these guys, and of course Andrew does what he does. He lies and pretty much, you know, does his whole stunt queen, you know, his whole little stunt queen performance, as he does with everybody in his life. So then we see, like, towards the end and everything, you know, Jeff ends up going off, and Andrew can't even pay his tab because he's broke. You know, he just pretty much says that, you know, can you hold it for next time? Then this older guy comes up and he says that it's funny. None of the guys notice me, but you seem to always notice me when I get in here. And he pretty much tells him that you can lie about anything, but the question is there money in your wallet or isn't? And then he gives him a number, you know, on a napkin. So then, all of a sudden, Andrew comes back home. His mother's like, where have you gone? Where have you been? You know, are you drunk? And he's like, yes, you know, I'm drunk with dreams about getting far from here. And you're going with me. We're going to go sky high. And, you know, people will look up at us while we look down on them. See, that just goes to show right there. His mother planted that fucked up philosophy in his head that he's above everyone else. So even though they are living hand to mouth and barely got a pot to piss in, you know, she's still putting on this. He still has this grandeur idea that he's above everyone else. We're going to go to a place where everyone will look up at us and we will look down on them. This whole thing about you know, creating jealousy and envy. Just a toxic mix altogether. So we see that going on. Then we see the number that the guy gave him was to an escorting agency. He goes there. The lady is just real cunt with him. She's like, why are you dressed like you're going to church? You know, she takes photos of him. She's very direct, and she says that, look, what is your makeup? He's like, well, you know, I'm partially Italian, and you know, my father's, you know, from the Philippines, and you know, and he was like, she was like, see, the thing is, my clients really don't care for Asians. You know, they some of them care for Asian women, but they do not care for Asian men. So, you know, and if anything, I want to see what you're working with. You know, are you even well endowed? And he says yes, and he shows her that, yeah, he's packing. And he pretty much tells her that, I'm very good with older men and everything, and, I'm this and I'm that. And she's just cutting him down. She's like, see, the thing is, my clients want a specific type, and even though you got a big dick, you may not even be their type. And if anything, I can't sell you to anybody because you really don't meet the actual qualities that that my clients want. So he pretty much was like, well, fine, I'll sell myself. And he just walks out. So I'm like, here it is. He's going to an escorting agency, and they won't even hire him, So then we see Donatella and Gianni. They're working on this dress together, and he's saying that he wants the world to see her in a special way. With that dress, with the belt buckles, and pretty much she was like, well, my Naomi will look great in this, and he was saying that, no, I'm wearing this for you. I want you to wear the dress. I want the world to see you and to see your beauty. So then it's New York, and it's Vogue's 100th anniversary. Him and Donatella are there. She's covered up, and pretty much they're on the red carpet. And then next thing you know, she takes the cape off, and everybody goes crazy over her dress. And she's like on every major cover or publication. Everybody's taking pictures, and it's like overnight, Donatella is a known entity, in connection to Versace's fashions. So that was groundbreaking. So then we actually see later on, Andrew decides to take escorting in his own hands, and he definitely makes a play for older men. We actually, see this is the first time. It's at this play, this 18th century play, is where he actually meets Norman for the first time. And, him and Norman instantly kind of click. He notices that he buys him some wine, and they talk, and he actually introduces himself as Andrew de Silva. And then he comes from Portuguese descent, and that, he loves older men. So, of course, Norman is intrigued. And then we meet Norman's friends. One is named Lincoln, who's kind of like the playboy out the group. He's kind of like the player. He's kind of like the player out of them. And then you got Gallo. Gallo is the one we met last week. Gallo was the one that was reading Andrew for filth, and he still was reading him for filth. And he's like, well, that Norman is always a sucker from young boys, so I guess you can consider yourself lucky. Oh yeah, and that tux, yeah, you might want to make sure you return it without a spot or wrinkle. They charge for that, right? I was like, that damn Gallo was a mess. He could not stand Andrew for nothing. So we already he ain't like Andrew from the door. So we see the guys actually, talk. They pretty much have a conversation, and of course, Andrew starts lying about, I actually married my wife. I used to be married to a woman named Lizzie and all this shit. Lizzie's his best friend. The girl we saw in the last episode. But he's telling them that they used to be married, and she was a beautiful girl, and just things didn't work out with us. And then Gallo was like, you look like you're a little too young to be already married. Isn't this interesting? Gallo's not buying none of it. So then we actually see that Norman actually he's actually there visiting. He actually lives in Phoenix, but he's in San Diego. But the house that they were staying at was actually Lincoln's house. And Lincoln does live in San Diego, so him and Andrew become an item, and he pretty much tells him that, okay, I'll pay you $100 a night. And he was saying that, I'll tell you what, won't you give me an allowance, and, won't you give me an allowance, and I can be whatever you want me to be. I'll be at your beck and call. But he says that, I like variety. And Andrew's like, well, fine, I know all the gay guys in San Diego. Shoot, I can literally make this, I can literally make this, I can literally make all these guys your subjects, and you will be king. Literally playing on his ego. So it's like, yeah, it all depends if you want to meet, I can provide your wants if you can meet my terms. So again, going back to Donatella and Gianni, she's literally became famous overnight. Everyone is talking about this dress that she wore on the red carpet, but according to business, they're not selling any dresses. It's like we got, the dresses aren't selling, so pretty much as far as the sales, the numbers are bad. And pretty much Donatella was like, let's make a simpler version for customers to buy, like, make something for the runway, but then make simpler versions for people to buy off the rack. And he's just pissed off because he said that his creation was the best, and people should be buying his stuff based off of that alone. And he was saying, so how are we going to make this simpler? Because he doesn't think in a mechanical way about fashion. So he starts cutting the dress, and, he starts flipping out, and then next thing you know, we see that, he loses his hearing, and he starts panicking. I can't hear, and he starts to break down. And that was crazy, and it turns out he actually had this illness. But in this time, Donatella decides to take over, and she runs Versace's, she runs the Versace's fashion house until he's able to get better. So she's now understanding why he's so hard on her, because he's saying that you're going to end up running this, and I need you to be ready. So yeah, he was hard on her because he wanted her to be ready, and he wanted her to be sharp. And she actually did come up with an idea that, we should develop some simpler versions that people can buy off the rack. And he just was just flipping out, because he's like, what the hell do you mean by that? So we actually see that she actually, while he's recuperating, she literally takes over Versace's fashion house. She speaks to the team. She literally becomes the boss. So we literally seen her ascend from being just a protege to now actually running Versace's fashion house until Versace gets better. So we saw that with her. So then we see Andrew, Lincoln is now his benefactor, so now he's a cat boy, he's got money, and he's living it up, partying, with his friends. He's, of course, being the stunt queen that he is, telling lies and putting on airs. And then he notices a guy sitting alone at the bar, and it's David Madsen. He buys him a drink and actually asks him, could he, he kind of calls him over. And you can tell that, David is obviously, new to the city, he's vacationing, but he's kind of to himself and he's alone. So he invites, so Andrew invites David over to their table to hang out with them. Then they, so then, afterwards, he takes David to his hotel room as the Mandarin Oriental. Remember, they talked about that in the episode that he killed David. When they were at that West Stop, they were talking, and he was talking about the night that they went to the Mandarin Oriental, and it was this really big suite, and they had slippers, and he had talked about he took the slippers home. So he was fascinated, and then all of a sudden he saw the view. It was a view of San Francisco. So yeah, so they were in San Francisco when this happened. So next thing you know, so pretty much David and Andrew start locking lips, and next thing you know, they are getting it in. you know, getting it in, you know, ripping each other's clothes off, getting down in the shower. So, and we're starting to see that, you know, Andrew is really into David, because David starts telling about this story about this girl named Leah who he went to school with, who was always bullied, and he had told her that one day, you know, I'm an architect, so I told her I was gonna design a house just for her, and then me and her can live in it, and no one will ever pick on her again. But he said that once he told her that he was gay, she really didn't take it well, and she stopped talking to him. So I'm thinking, so obviously she was into David. So we can tell just from him listening to this story, you know, Andrew's listening, and he's just intrigued by him. And we got to see that, yeah, he's in love with him. But then later on, that damn Lincoln called and was like, so he pretty much says that, look, I keep track of every dime you spend. So what the hell you doing in San Francisco? And why you at this hotel? What, you got a new little booth thing or something? And he says that, look, he says, I keep track of every dime you spend. So nothing you spend does not get past me. So he's like, so Andrew's like, well, you know I like the finer things in life, Lincoln. You've always known that about me. And he was like, not anymore. So Lincoln calls himself going back to that bar, going back to, well, they actually didn't need the bar, but Lincoln takes it upon himself to go to the bar to find him a new little plaything. He meets this guy who he says he's noticed, but the guy claims he's straight. So if anything, he's like, okay. So, but if anything, you know, Lincoln is intrigued by the guy. The guy says he's straight, but he says you'll always hear at gay bars, you know, so if you're not into guys, what are you into? So he invites the guy back to his place, makes him a drink, and then he's saying that, look, I'm not going to touch you. That's what you think I'm going to do. Obviously, this was a guy who obviously was dealing with his sexuality. He probably went to gay bars because he actually was gay, but just didn't know how to deal with his feelings or his emotions, because the guy was just jumpy. And, you know, and like Lincoln was like, look, I'm not going to do nothing to you. You know, I'm not going to, I don't, that's not my style. I ain't going to force nothing on you that you don't want. But the thing about it, you know, I ain't going to leave here without no saliva at all. Meaning he wanted to kiss him. So he pretty much, you know, says, why don't you just finish your drink? I'll give you $50 for a cab, you know, or better yet, don't finish your drink. And then when he kind of like took the drink, dude flipped and like took an urn and like hit Lincoln over the head and literally beat Lincoln to death. And then Andrew was coming in while all this was happening. So if anything, he did that just to kind of throw jabs at Andrew that, no, you ain't the only hot pussy on the block. But he ended up getting killed in the process. And then all of a sudden the guy hears Andrew. Andrew runs, but the guy catches him, and he's like, look, he's like, he's like, look, he's kind of like, look, I don't know what's going on, I know nothing, you know, what's up? And then the guy says, he tried to kiss me. He's like, yeah, I know, but they're going to be coming after you. You should leave. So the guy finally leaves, and then this is what brought him and Norman back together, because, of course, you know, Lincoln was one of Norman's close friends. So pretty much Lincoln died, and they end up catching the guy. And then he says that Lincoln tried to kiss him, so that's the reason why he snapped. So he literally got slapped on the wrist because of homophobia, and homophobia was rampant during that time. You know that because he felt his sexuality was being you know, questioned, or due to the fact he was made uncomfortable, this caused him to react in a way that was out of his character. Kind of like the same thing they did with the Twinkie defense when Harvey Milk was assassinated. It's the same shit. And they both were talking about that, saying that, you know, how fucked up homophobia is, and how that they can rape us, they can kill us, they can do whatever, and we have no rights to protect ourselves. So then we pretty much see that you know, him and Norman get close, and he says that, you know, he pretty much convinces Norman to move to San Diego, and that he will help design this house and all of that. So when he was saying, I built this house, in all honesty, Andrew did design the house. He, you know, Norman ended up getting this mansion, and he literally bought all the stuff for it to go into the mansion and everything. And yeah, so we see that go on. But then the funny thing about it, before he moves in with Norman, he lies to his mother and saying that he's going to be going on tour with Versace and all of that. So she's all happy. She's like, oh, and she's like, yeah, we're going to be going to like Paris and Milan. She's like, oh my God, those are beautiful places. You know, I wonder what Paris is like. And he says, I'll send you a postcard. And she's like, I thought you said I can go with you. You promised. And she's saying that, look, you know, you can't come with me right now. And she says, well, don't leave me here. You know I can't make it here by myself. And he says, I'll send you money. Don't worry about it. You know, and I'm like, yo, you are cold as hell. Like, you sat there and you promised your mom that she's going to have a good life, and then you're going to tell her that, you know, you can't come with me? And maybe it's because he's lying. He's going to live with a rich man. And, you know, mom ain't in the picture with that. So she's pretty much saying that, look, I'll do anything. You know, I'll clean your bed. I'll continue to do your laundry. And he's like, what makes you think I need you to do my laundry? I'm going to be staying in hotels, for crying out loud. And he's like, well, maybe I can talk to Versace. He's such a great man, and I'll be more than happy to tell this great man that, you know, I won't be in any trouble, but I just want to be with you, son. And, you know, and she just starts going off and everything. And next thing you know, Andrew snapped, and he literally pushes the shit out of his mother, to the point that she actually fractured her shoulder. But she lies and says that, no, it was an accident. My son came to my aid. He's such a good boy. And I'm like, wow. So he never took responsibility. Even when he did wrong shit, his parents let him get away with everything. Which also explains why Andrew had the mentality that he was entitled and that he can get anything he wants. And then we see that he, you know, designs Norman's house, and him and Norman are pretty much now an item. And he says that, wow, this house is beautiful. You know, I wish everyone can see me now. And then Norman's like, who? And he says, everyone. So we already seen this is where the stage has been set, where now he's living this rich lifestyle. And when he loses everything, that's when he snaps. And we're just like, we really now get a full glimpse as to why Andrew became what led Andrew to become a serial killer. So we're now getting a glimpse as to what took place that made him that way. One, he was spoiled as shit by his mother. He acted like a fucking fool, because if he would threw the ice cream down with me, I would have slapped the shit out of him. Let me do some shit like that to my mother and think that I would have lived to tell the story. Just saying. And then you're going to fracture her because she wanted to go with you, but you had told so many lies that it got to the point you couldn't lie to her anymore, and she wasn't going to take no for an answer. So you push her, and she still covers for you. So it goes to show right there, Andrew never had to take responsibility for his own actions, and she obviously, you know, built him up to believe that he was better than others. So this is where the seeds of the monster were planted. So that's what I have, y'all. If I missed anything, put it down in the comments. But subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, follow me on all of my social platforms. I have them all listed in the description box. Also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And I will be back with the next episode of Versace. I'll be back for the next episode of the Assassination of Gianni Versace. So until next time, everybody, take care.